So you've got this moral expectancy, and
Yeah.
then we have to look at it from the contractual reality because that's what life insurance is, or accidental death insurance. It's a contract, and it's
It
a
is a
contract
contract.
with provisions.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jock. This is the Pillars of Grief. Do you know what? I've always got to remember to say the right show because I do so many different ones. And today I've got it right, but today I've got a fantastic guest. And this is something that is you guys that listen to me regularly, that follow me on YouTube, that know my work in grief will know how passionate I am about helping people through a grief process, about helping military veterans through grief, and people who are suffering on a journey, or people who are suffering through mental health and prolonged grief disorder. But one thing I cannot do is when everybody turns to me from a financial aspect and asks me questions that I cannot answer, when they're left abandoned, they feel abandoned and they feel that they don't have anywhere to turn. And today I have got the answer for you at last. And I'm so delighted to bring my friend back, Stephanie Prestridge, who's been on one of my other podcasts actually. And we met, we clicked, and we connected. And I just had to bring her on because this is the solution. Stephanie, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to see you again.
I'm so glad because I haven't told anybody yet that's out there, about you and what you are. And I will say this: she's a lawyer, right? So don't let that frighten anybody out there
Don't
who's
hold it
listening,
against
because
me.
she's absolutely wonderful. She's a lovely lawyer, and but she's got a very unique story. And for anybody who's grieving, this is really going to help you when it comes to understanding your financial responsibilities, your financial pressures. And Stephanie runs an organization, a practice, legal practice called Life Claim. Stephanie, I'm going to hand it over to you for you to tell everybody about you, and especially your story, because your story is wonderful as well, how you got into this.
And my grandmother likes to say so as well. Um,
Yeah,
so I will tell you, Life Claim is a law practice, but our focus is on helping individuals when life insurance or accidental death benefits are denied, when someone passes, and because it's never expected. Those policies are like promises, right? People hold on to them for years. They're almost like another member of the family. They're at the table. They're on your mind. They're there. You're expecting them. You're doing them for all the right reasons. And then when someone passes and they are delayed or they're denied or they're disputed, it's another loss on top
it
of
is.
everything else. It really is. And so that is our focus with our practice. And what's interesting is that we didn't start out with this being our focus. We kind of
No, you
fell
didn't.
into it. And I think that's true with a lot of people and their work.
Yeah.
I actually was straight out of law school, and I was a little too big for my britches. I was doing international trade and maritime defense. And it was a great job. I mean, it was the hoity-toity, like, holy cow, I did well enough in school to get this job, and I had arrived. And while I was sitting in my office with the wall of windows behind me and the wall of all of my, awards and A's and achievements and gold stars, all of them on the wall in front of me because I couldn't forget, right? Um, my mama, I call her, my mama is grandma in Southern. I don't know. I'm sure there's other words to use, but my mama called me, and I remember what I was wearing, where I was sitting, everything. I remember the weather. Picked up the phone and I'm like, "Hey, mama, I'm at work. What you doing?" And she's like, "Stephanie, Papa was just diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I need you to tell us what we're going to do." And to really, really put that into perspective, you have to understand, like, I come from an amazing family and they're all high achievers, but I was the first in my family to go straight from high school to college, straight from college to a graduate degree. So I was the first to have that traditional path and have the blessing of being able to have that traditional path. And, and I did very, very well. I was an excellent student. And so heavy is the crown that comes with that.
Yeah.
and I don't say that in a negative way, like, I was proud of it, but when you have those achievements and your family supported you so much through it, like, they're looking at you going, "Okay, well, now you've had this opportunity to gain all this knowledge, and now we
Yeah.
need your help." And I will never forget how humbling it was to me to realize that on the day it mattered most, for the people who mattered most, I couldn't answer her question. I didn't have a clue what to tell her. And so
Yeah.
I tried to skirt it a little, and I was like, "Well, mama, call mom," and my mom's a nurse. She's an outstanding nurse. And I was like, "Call mom. She'll tell you which facility's the best, where to go, all of these things." My mama, as she still does occasionally, very quickly put me in my place, and she said, "I didn't ask you where we're gonna go. I asked you, what are we going to do? And, what about our home? What about our investments? What about all of the things that we've worked for? What about all of these things?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?" And it was humbling because I didn't know. I didn't know. I ended
I can
up
understand that because I'm not in your position, but I've had so many, because I deal with so many people who are grieving. They've asked me, "What do I do now?" And I can help them in their journey, and I can do all, but I can't answer this question for them. I didn't know, so I can
exactly.
only imagine how you must have felt being right in that firing
It,
line.
it was a lot, but I also, like, I'm never going to be able to answer every question. So it's one of those, like, it was a pivotal question because it was one that caught my attention. And
Yeah,
today if somebody called me up and asked me about, like, can you answer my criminal law question? No, nope, don't. I can give you a referral, but and it's the same concept though. Like, so if somebody came, that would be a good question, but it's not going to be one that makes me stop and say, well, wait, holy cow! After all of this, on a day it matters for a person who matters, I can't answer this question. And I ended up moving home and helping to take care of my grandparents, and I drove their lawyer crazy, because at least I knew I couldn't be their lawyer, right? And I did, I drove him crazy, and he's a very good lawyer, very smart, and he called me one day and he said, "If you had any more questions," and I was like, "Actually, since you've
yeah, you
called,"
do.
and he said, "No, no, no. I have 3 files on a desk, come work them." And so he gave me a job, and I worked with him, I learned a lot from him. Um, One of the things that I learned up front, though, was because I started that journey on the other side of the table, not as
Yeah,
the professional providing the advice. I walked in with my mama and my papa as the family getting the advice.
yeah.
Um, because I started on that side of the table, it changed everything for me.
I can
I
imagine.
Yeah, and it's like, you can read about it, you can watch all kinds of movies about, like the doctor who becomes the patient, or, the lawyer who becomes the client. It's they're out there because it's true. And there's amazing lawyers, there's amazing doctors who weren't the patient or weren't the client, but what really caught my attention on that level was my mama is one of the most formidable women I know. She's so smart. If I could be half the leader that she was, I will be incredibly successful.
Wow.
She's that brilliant. And I've never seen her shrink. Never seen her back down, never seen her question her own capabilities, her own insight, and I remember sitting next to her in that meeting room, and she shrunk.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
curved in, and I learned that at that moment that clarity was just as important as competence, because her lawyer was incredibly competent, but her understanding and her clarity of what was going on was not. And the greatest gift that they gave me was the ability to say, okay, I have the information, I can learn the information. Do I have the
yeah.
skills to share it in a way that makes sense, and share it in a way where you understand I will carry most of this load for you, but I'm gonna need your help. And not only do I want you to know what I'm doing, do you know why I'm doing what I'm doing? Because just understanding what's happening and why, there's so much power in that. There's so much relief in that. And that's kind of how, my journey as an estate lawyer began. And then I've been practicing for years and years, and I had a client who came in, that we did an estate plan, and as with every estate plan, like, we always look at what the assets are, what do you have, what do you owe, do you have any life insurance? And in this case, yes, and we knew that one of my clients was going to pass away very soon. He had cancer, and we just knew. So we were preparing for that. And in building a plan, we used that life insurance as a foundation for how to take care for his surviving spouse, his surviving children, to account for, a business. We really were using all of these assets to make sure that there was an easy, excellent transition for his family. And when he passed and his widow called me, I said, "Okay, where's the life insurance? Have you started that process? Have you, already received it? Is it in a bank account? Because let's go ahead and we'll start moving." And she said, "Funny enough, the company sent me this letter and they said that they weren't going to pay the benefits. And they sent me this check for return of the premiums that we had paid on it." And my first question was, "Have you cashed the check?" And she's like, "No, no, no, that it's in my hand. Should I?" And I was like, "No, do not cash that check, because the minute you cash it, that's a contract that you're saying, I agree with you." And
Yeah.
then my next question was, "How did this happen? I didn't know this happens." I was just like, I had to pick my chin up off the floor. Like, life insurance is a promise. That's what it is. Like, this doesn't happen. This is something that people have forever, and they invest in, and they have purposes for it. And it's a wonderful gift to give to your family. What do you mean they're not going to pay it? So while I was busy over having an existential crisis over this, my husband's like, "It's wrong. We're going to fight it." And he's the best lawyer I know. I'm good. He's better. Um, he's so good. And
I
while I
love how
was
you
again,
honor you really fly his flag, but even your mother as well. Like,
oh, yeah. Oh,
it's
I love my
beautiful.
people. I love my people.
You
I'm
do?
I'm I'm the luckiest person ever to have all my people. Like, they make me a better person every day. And,
Ah, it's beautiful.
and I don't always like the process, though. I'll just be fair. Like, sometimes I wish that they would stop. But I remember, like, I'm sitting there with my client and I'm like, "Okay, I need to go have a moment because I didn't know that this happens." Meanwhile, my husband is, scrappy litigator, and he's back there and he's saying, "This is wrong and we're gonna fight." And he started that fight, and, we won. And they sent him a letter, they sent us a letter. It was 3 pages. It was not very nice. They called him lots of, without using bad words.
I understand the burden of grief. I understand what you go through. I have been intimately acquainted with grief all of my life. And so, if you need support, then obviously you can go beyond this channel and you can join my free community. And in that community, you can find more support and you can engage with me direct. So, click the link below if you would like to get access to my free community, Pillars of Grief, and I'll see you over there. God bless.
I meant to ask you, Steffi, from the last
Mhm,
the last episode that we did on
mhm.
on my other the podcast on Help Lawyer. I wondered, do you have that framed on your wall? Because that would be
Yes.
that
Yes,
would
he
be one
does,
right
he
out the
does.
frame.
And I mean, it's hysterical because, like, literally the first 2 pages are, "You're terrible. We can't believe you're doing this. This is wrong. You're wrong. I can't believe you're doing this. Like, what a terrible thing for you to even question. By the way, here's your check." I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
literally.
that is hilarious. But it just shows though that it's so many people get caught out with it. I'm amazed at how many people who lose loved ones are left without the knowledge that they just they take it on the chin. They're like, I've lost, they won't pay. I've
Well,
lost it.
and think about it. I mean, just think about the timing, right? You've lost someone, you're
Yeah,
grieving, you
yeah,
are in a financial crisis possibly because now how do we pay for a funeral? Gosh, do we even know where all these documents are? Do we know what was planned out? Um, you know, what do we do? And you've got everybody saying, well, we've got to make all these decisions really, really quickly because we need to, know how to plan and move forward and get all of these, loose ends
yeah.
tied up, except we've got these problems in that we don't know everything, and then we have this unexpected jolt of, "What do you mean there's a problem?" I thought it was taken care of. And oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And when you're moving quickly and you're grieving, these have lifelong financial consequences for families.
Massively. Yeah.
Absolutely. And life insurance companies, whether it's deliberate or not, my husband would say it's definitely intentional. I struggle with vilifying too many things, but,
I'm going to take your husband's side.
yeah, I
I
think most
witnessed
people
it.
do. Most people do. I try, I try. Um,
You're just so
but
lovely. So nice.
well, I ride the fence, how about that? I tried. There's things that people do that are abhorrent, there's some things that they do that's abhorrent, but I don't wanna vilify an entire company. Not all of them anyway.
No.
But I like, you know, think about it, when they're looking at it and they know you're grieving, they know you're stressed, overwhelmed, unsure, and that's leverage for them. That's leverage
Yeah.
because how many people are going to just say, "I'm done. I don't know what to do." And I'll share with you, I actually, I love Reddit. I'm probably too old to love Reddit, but, my kids think I'm kinda cool because I love to read Reddit, but it's kind of like this unofficial probate court to go onto Reddit because what you can see is what's happening in a state and in insurance. Like, if you wanna know what's happening with life insurance, don't go read a brochure. Don't go read a fancy newspaper. Go on Reddit and just type in "life insurance," and you will
Do you know, it's
find
interesting because Reddit, as far as I'm aware, in marketing now, I think it's become the third biggest search engine.
it's pretty phenomenal. It's such a great community. And I mean, it's got everything from, dating advice to, I need help with legal advice, but it's 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 what an online community should be. Most of the time you get all of these people coming in and feeding in information and asking questions because they just don't know where else to go. And I watch it because it's real, and most of it's real, I'm assuming, but, the questions are exactly the ones that we deal with every single day, and so are the emotions,
That's
and
true.
I
Actually, I had the journalist reach out to me and said, "I want to interview you about this." I think that's how I ended up doing one of the interviews with Epoch Times about grief. This question has turned up on Reddit. They're asking this. We want an expert so that we can write this article based on this question.
Right,
And so it
exactly.
makes sense. And I mean, I can see why that would be a good place for people to go and get their answer. But I mean, there's probably still a lot of rubbish on it as well, of course, like there is everywhere. But
Mm,
you've got to
whether it's
discern
fake or
between
it's
what you
real,
have.
it doesn't matter, right? I all of the ones that I've read, I genuinely believe that they're real because
Yeah.
they are the same conversations that I have on the telephone every day with
Wow.
clients, or,
It
I'll
makes
have
sense.
clients that send me, like, email inquiries, and they are the same facts every day. And I actually was reading through some yesterday, and just the emotions that were coming through. So, spiraling
Yeah.
with anxiety, unsure of what to do, so scared to mess up. I shouldn't have to become a part-time lawyer to receive the benefits my dad wanted me to have.
That's so
I'm
sad.
right? That is honesty right there. And then, you take that honesty and you couple it with the fact that Reddit shows you the moral issues as well as, like, the contractual issues because you can see where people are coming in and everyone feels like they are entitled. Everyone feels like they are right. So you've got this moral expectancy, and
Yeah.
then we have to look at it from the contractual reality because that's what life insurance is, or accidental death insurance. It's a contract, and it's
It
a
is a
contract
contract.
with with provisions, and it has rules on when it's going to apply, or if it's contestable, or how it's going to work after so many years. And we see it as the promise, and it is a promise, but the life insurance companies see it as a contract. And when someone passes away, they're just enforcing a contract, and
Yeah, that's
they're
and they
able.
don't realize that they could throw someone into an existential or a spiritual crisis because you're dealing with the grief of losing the loved one. And then, as you mentioned before, this is like another level of grief because you're grieving this loss, which is compounding, and it's a potential that goes into prolonged grief disorder, which is a catalyst because of the financial implications.
Right. And it's interesting because you can see, people question, is there a certain time frame when I have to do this? Or gosh, what do you mean? Like, we've had this policy, and now they're saying that they're going to do a medical review, and what does that mean? Do we just give up? And more than
Wow.
anything, if whoever's listening, whoever hears this, don't give up. Time is of the essence. Absolutely, if you've got somebody who's delaying something or denying something, if you're just not sure, ask questions. And whether you go on a Reddit thread, or you can send an email to me or a phone call, like, because it's free. Just ask, and I actually answer the
Yeah, we'll
phone.
put
And
actually
yeah,
on the
yeah,
screen, we'll make sure we put up lifeclaim.com, go to
absolutely,
lifeclaim,
yeah.
where you can get that information because people don't know.
And we answer every email, we return every call. And look, half of my calls are sometimes telling people, I can't help you because it's gone too far, or let me explain to you why I can't help you. And it hurts my heart to have to say, okay,
I say
let me.
that because I said to you before, you're a lawyer with a really deep heart. You've got a deep level of compassion, and I suppose again, my question is as well is where do you find the balance between lawyer and this compassionate counselor? Because you're also seeming to give them counsel,
well
and not in
I
a legal way, but in an emotional way.
well I mean, yeah, yeah, and some of that fills me, right, to be able to do that.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
I had one woman who called not too long ago, and there was nothing I could do to help her. Nothing. It was. I understood what the life insurance company had done to deny it, and too many delays. Like we were beyond the time when I could help, and she was
Wow.
sobbing, and her comment was, "It's like my mom can't rest. I don't think my mom can rest in peace because this was messed up, and I see her name everywhere, and I smell her perfume everywhere, and I can't rest." And I just listened to her. I was on the phone for almost an hour, and at the end of it, I was like, maybe, maybe your mom is her name's appearing and her perfume is appearing because she needs you to be at rest, because you're gonna be okay. Like, it would have been a gift, but in this particular circumstance, like, no one was gonna go without that. Family was buried, and no one was in financial devastation at that
Yeah,
point. And I was like, maybe she's trying to let you know that she's here and she loves you,
absolutely.
and you're
Still
okay.
alive.
And that's not legal counsel. That's just me, right? And she was real quiet, and she said, I didn't think of it like that. And that was it. And I wish I could have
That's
given her different
beautiful,
legal
Steph.
counsel, but
I love
you
that.
know,
That's beautiful. It really is.
but it's a joy to be able to be a resource if possible. And there's some people who wouldn't have liked that answer, but it's I don't know. It's just how it felt at the moment.
I think it's important for people to realize that going through this, that they have someone like you that's a support, but not only that you have a level of compassion, you've been there. There's that saying, walk a mile in a person's shoes or walk a mile in a man's shoes. Not that I want to be in kind of feminist in any way, but walk a mile in a walk
Yeah,
a mile in a
yeah.
man's shoes. It's true because you have been there. You've experienced this, and it's because of your experiences that you dramatically changed your direction in the legal world to do this, which is I don't see it as a job for you. I see it as a vacation.
I love what I do, and I love working with my husband. Just wonderful, and we offset each other very well. He's the brilliant I always say he's the man behind the green curtain. He's just the brilliant
He's the
person there.
litigator.
Oh my gosh, and he's the strategist. He's amazing.
I love
And
it.
he loves people, but his social barometer is very low. Like it's like in short little snippets. I'm a strategist, but I would prefer to talk to the people and be that, end of our business. And so we just balance. So when you ask, like how do you do it? Well, I'm lucky enough to say I've got this built-in balance with
Yes.
a great legal partner and who understands where my skills, thrive, and we work off of that. And then on top of it, we have a great team. We've talked about this before, like it's not just lawyers here. We have nurses that work here. We have scientists that work
Yeah.
here. We have claims managers that work here. And because we work as a team, it allows us all to kind of delegate appropriately, so you do not want me researching your medical records. I look at them, I try to understand them, but you don't want to talk to me about them. That's why we
The,
have
the,
nurses. But
your,
it's
your
so much
mother's a nurse,
fun.
and if the last time we spoke, you had a
Yes.
case where you had to ask her about the
Mhm.
anatomy, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and she was most disappointed in my inability to understand. But to look, it is completely aside, but fun story. When I got into law school, I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, I got in. I got in. This is fabulous. It's great." And she started crying, and I thought, "Oh, she's so proud of me." And as she's crying, she says, "I raised you better than this." And she hung up the phone.
Serious?
You can't make it up. Can't make it up, right? And then the next day I get
My God.
flowers from my mom, and they're not congratulations flowers. They are I'm sorry flowers. So so it's funny if you ever get to talk to her now, and she's so amazing. She will be the first to tell you that she did raise me better than that, and it shows and how I practice now. So it's it was a good, like, kept me in line. So not just to be the lawyer, but to be a better lawyer, a better person.
Steph, I want to ask you if there's any, because there's people out there that I know that I've talked about this before. Anticipated grief is that's a big thing. We're, as you mentioned, your papa, is it papa you call him, had Alzheimer's. So I'm getting the lingo now as well. Had Alzheimer's. There's people there who maybe they have a relation who's got Alzheimer's. They know they're going to pass pretty soon. Um, is there red flags for someone who's maybe in the process? They know their loved one's going to pass. Is there something that they can do now to prepare, even though they're kind of dealing with this anticipated grief? But is there something they can deal with to prepare with the life insurance policies? Is there red flags that they should be looking for?
That's a great question. And I'm going to give you a very lawyer answer, which is it depends. So the
That is
sorry,
so legal coming from a
it
lawyer. Yeah,
really
I can't
is,
tell you
right?
that. I can't tell you if you're going to win or not. But yeah, it
Yeah,
depends.
it depends. Um, I know it's terrible. They should have a class in law school, that it depends class. But I I think that the first and most important thing anyone can do is have a conversation, and it doesn't have to be right before someone passes. Have a
Uh,
conversation with your family, and look, I want to be very clear. I understand family dynamics are different. Everybody's family is
Absolutely,
different.
yeah, yeah.
But there is a respectful way to talk to family members to say, you know, um, I just need to know, have you done anything? Have you written a will? Have you gone to see a lawyer? Do you have life insurance? Do you have burial insurance? Because they're not always the same. Some people just go get a burial policy. Some people have, a life insurance policy. Do you have accidental death? Do you have it through work? Did you go buy it separately? And when asking these questions, be respectful. Like, not everybody wants to tell you what they have because it's theirs. And the minute you start asking about, well, what do you have and where do you keep it? And we always tend to default with how much is it? You know, who's the
That's the big
beneficiary? Who's
thing.
going to
And
get it? Hmm.
your siblings are also like, well, why are they asking that
Uh-huh.
question? Are they only
Uh-huh.
just
Why?
interested in
Exactly.
the money? And
Exactly.
that
And
so that
so are
causes
your parents.
disconnection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So siblings, parents, like all of a sudden everybody's spine kind of goes up, and I get it. I so respect that. And I think that just having that conversation and being aware of how it can be heard wrong is just as important as preparing to ask it appropriately. And when you go to someone, you can say, "Look, I'm not trying to get in your business. I just need to know, have you taken these steps? Are there things here? Because when something happens to you, I will not be okay to ask those questions then. If we wait until
That's
something
brilliant, actually. I never even thought of that. That's actually
right,
good to say that, I'm not going to be able to cope because this is
right,
something I don't want to deal with.
exactly. I was told my estate clients, if we wait to ask for permission, it's too late because by the time we need permission, something has happened and it's too late for
Yeah.
me to go get that permission. And it's the same concept of, I just need to know what tools you have made available, if any, because when
Yes.
something happens to you, I know I'm not going to be my most clear, my most capable self.
Uh,
And I need a roadmap. I just need to have some idea of what you have or where I need to go look. Am I the person that you want to go look? Or did
yeah.
you have somebody else in mind? And do not be offended if you're not the person that someone named, or, if they're like, that's my private business. Good luck and God bless when the time comes. It's, at least you asked. And somebody's not being ugly if they choose to maintain their privacy. We have to
Yeah.
honor it. It doesn't make your life easier, but that don't take it as a negative. Just say, okay, I have to respect that. And it guides you on what to do for your own family down the road. And then also be aware of how those family dynamics interplay with that. If you ask these
Yeah.
questions and then siblings or, extended family members, all of a sudden get their feathers all ruffled, um, you can just come to them and say, I'm just trying to make sure that we all know what to do so we can come together and work as a team if we need to, or I can work as an individual and,
You
and
know,
do what I need to
that
do.
is that is so important because in my work in grief counsel on supporting people through their grief journey, a great deal of the questions that I get, Steph, a lot is like, I've fallen out with my sister, I've fallen out with my brother, we don't communicate, we don't connect. How can I deal with that? And when I go into it, 9 times out of 10, it is a financial issue.
Hmm.
It is there's jealousy, there's guilt, there's a disparity between them, and they're disconnected, and they can't bring it up. They can't talk because one thinks one's trying to get over on somebody else. Or no, I get it. Family dynamics. Sometimes you might not get on with your families. You can choose your friends, but sometimes you can't choose your family. I get it, but this is a potential problem that's waiting to happen because this also they can't deal with it. And when they're going through grief, everybody's grieving. The brother's grieving, the sisters, all the siblings are grieving in their own way because grief is unique to everyone. But one thing that's not unique is this financial burden that has to be dealt with.
Right. Death and money change people. There's no question. I've worked with beautiful, amazing families, and it is still, all these years later, it is still shocking to the system to see how death and money change people. And I don't know. Sometimes you see parts of people that you didn't expect, or you'll see like grief just has this tremendous effect on how they're able to cope. And I will follow that up with, life insurance doesn't just fund a funeral, it funds a lawsuit, because at that point, if you've got death and
Well,
grief
that's a
and then you've
brilliant quote. I'm going to use that in a
right,
snippet.
right. And then if you've got people who have had unresolved relationships or issues, and now we've got a death, we've got a loss of a source of stability in our life. and now we've got money and an unresolved relationship. There you
Wow.
go. We're gonna fight over it. And it's because all of these other things that we didn't resolve, this is gonna be our new platform to do that. And it's heartbreaking. But it is what it is. On the grief level, I guess for me, Jacques, just letting people know that if someone says no, like if you apply for these benefits, or if they just are like, we're going to take our time with this, or this is being reviewed, or no, we don't think we should have to pay this. Please don't just accept that. Beneficiaries should never ever accept the initial no, ever. You have the right to appeal. You have the right to ask better questions, to have someone ask questions for you. Um, do not stop at no.
Because a lot of people as well, they're not prepared for the cost of death, right? I mean, I don't know how many times even I've thought personally in my own life, I'm like, am I prepared? No, probably. I mean, since meeting you, I'm now thinking a bit more
Oh,
strategically than I
great. I'm
was
like the
before.
Grim Reaper. Great. Can I
But
just,
you know,
as a side note, no one has died because they came to see me or talk
no,
to me. Okay. Not the Grim Reaper.
she's not. She's definitely not the Grim Reaper. Absolutely not. But it does make you think. And I had the conversation after we spoke last time with my wife, and I was like, we really need to take this seriously in something, because it is something that people are not ready for. And of course, a lot of people that I deal with, they're not ready for the cost of, and that's really important. They're not ready for the cost of death, funeral expenses, medical bills. Here we go again, medical bills, everything that comes on top of it, and incidentals that they don't even think about that need to be dealt with, and then maybe education or the youngsters that need to go through. It is so much to think about. And when you're grieving, you can't think about it. You don't want to. When you're grieving, you don't want to deal with anything. Let alone it's hard enough just to communicate with someone when you're really in the throes of grief.
Right. And I had a call from somebody that, they were like, I'm just going through all the processes and I just don't know what to do. I just want to bury my brother. And I actually
That's
wrote it down.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I actually wrote it down because I was like, I need to see this every day just to remember my place when I'm talking with everyone. And I it's not just those immediate costs for me though, because especially with life insurance or the accidental death, like people have had these policies, whether they got them through their employer or they bought them personally, they had a purpose in mind. And look, I love the idea of life insurance. I believe in it. I believe in the gift that it is to family. I have it. My
You have
children have
several,
it.
don't you? Actually, you
I
have
do. I
several.
do. I have
You
several.
go shopping for them.
I do. I always tell people I buy life insurance like most women buy shoes, but that's that's how I like to have my investments. So like I have them for my children. Actually had to explain to a claims examiner that I was not trying to terminate my children. That I actually was buying life insurance for them so that as they aged, well, it was policy that I got for them, and that as they aged, if they ever got sick or something happened, I never
Yeah, they
wanted them to
cover.
be without. So I'm going to buy it now when they're young. And I bought policies where, we were investing in them, and then, it's got a cash value for them. And I get them because it's much cheaper when they're younger. Right. And so, now at some point, that policy can become their bank. And if they want to take a loan from
Absolutely.
themselves, they can. If they need to tap it for income when they're ready, they can. So that was kind of like my long-term gift for them. They can go do their own
That's a
investments and
beautiful
other
gift.
things. Yeah.
What what
But I
should
believe in it, obviously.
I mean, oh, yeah, because you shop like you're
Mhm.
buying shoes. But
Yes, yes.
I think this makes me also think is what someone out there, whether it's anticipated grief or they're getting ready, because at the end of the day, there's two things in life that are constant: taxes and death. We know that. I don't think it was. I think that was Abraham Lincoln that had said that. So, but how does somebody prepare? I mean, what should I be looking for, or should anybody out there who's like, okay, mum's getting older, we need to get life insurance, or we need to get life insurance. What should they be looking for in a policy? Is there a golden policy that they should have?
Oh golly, and until I have like some marketing contract with a life insurance company, I don't think I can answer that one. Um,
I'm
I
throwing
mean,
you
right?
under the
I
bus there.
should get paid for that one. Actually, I will tell you, I think that there's some amazing companies out there. I have a particular few favorites. Actually, oh golly, I'm gonna get in trouble
You
for this.
don't need to
Actually,
mention their names because they're not getting promoted on this. But is there a particular thing that they should look for?
I think you should go in prepared to ask good questions, right? So when you're looking for it, most of us start at how long is the coverage and how much does it cost? And those are really important questions because that may determine exactly what kind of policy you can get. But questions, how long is this contestable? Will my rates
That's what I
increase?
wanted. Yes, that's how
Right.
I want to jump into that next.
Mhm.
The contestability of it.
Yeah, and just, what happens if I change my beneficiaries? What's the process? Do I have to go through my agent or can I do this online?
Right.
Just asking good questions makes a big difference. And a lot of people, especially if they're getting their personal insurance, they have a particular agent that they like and they really trust and lean into their agent. And if you're not comfortable with your agent or your financial representative, you go talk to some more because there are some
Yeah.
amazing companies and some
Yeah.
amazing representatives and they will talk to you and help you and guide you. I can't emphasize that enough to have the right person there with you. And then as someone who's looking to possibly have to deal with that when, a crisis happens, I'm going to come back to that very same conversation of what do you have?
Yeah.
And where would I find it if you needed me to find it? Or if there's a family that's not comfortable having that conversation right now, always tell them draft up a roadmap and just say I've written out where we bank, I've written out where the life insurance is, I've written out all of these things. It's in an envelope. The envelope is in my desk. If you touch it before you need to, I'm going to rewrite everything in that envelope. It's there for your convenience when it's necessary. It is not there for your personal interest.
Yeah.
And just leave a roadmap, leave something where someone has a guide on what to do and where to go. I think it's an incredible gift. So red flags for me prior to death would be you can't find it. Like they said they had it and you can't find it. Okay,
Yeah.
well, if we still are able to have those conversations with people, we need to come back and say, okay, is it through work? Who do I contact? Where's all the paperwork? Like don't don't stop, just make sure you said you had it. Are you sure we had it? Okay. Um, so if you can't find it, if you've seen a lot of changes all of a sudden, see this all the time. Somebody will change their beneficiary designation 15 times in a month. Okay,
Wow.
a lot of changes. What's going on here? And look, that is your right to change your beneficiary. You can change it 15 times in a month, but I'm going to stop and say, what's going on? What's happening
Uh-huh.
here? What's going on, personally, what's going on emotionally, what's going on,
That's going to be a red flag.
for
That's another. There's
competency.
a narrative behind that. This changing.
Yeah, exactly. So what's happening here? And then red flags once someone has passed, at that point when you submit it and the life insurance company, sometimes will call you up and say, "Hey, what happened? Talk to me. What was going on here?" They are not calling because they're nice. They may be very nice people. There's a lot of people like me that want to hear about the cat and the coffee and what was happening.
Yeah,
But
but there's a
remember,
hidden agenda.
yeah, they're taking notes too. And if you're sharing something that gives them, a foothold to deny or delay that claim, they're doing their job, but that's a
Yeah.
really bad time to be taking notes and you're just talking, right? So, be prepared for that. If you're not sure why something's taking so long, if you feel like they're sending you forms you don't understand, that's a great time to say, wait, I need somebody to look at this and help me. I need to understand what's
Yeah,
going on
absolutely.
here. Um, Red flags are if somebody else calls the life insurance company and just tells them, I don't think that this is who the beneficiary should be. The minute that happens, life insurance company stops because they are very risk averse. They don't care about who's deserving. They're really looking at, are we actually supposed to pay this person? We don't want to pay the wrong person.
Yeah,
So they're very risk averse. So, these are some big, things where people are like, well, I don't think it's the way it should happen, or how many changes were there, or hey, did you die in suspicious, circumstances? All of these are things to pay attention to and just reach out and ask for help. And
yeah,
and I really appreciate one of the things when you talked about like grief and feeling overwhelmed with
yeah,
paperwork. Of course, well, I'm a lawyer. Of course, I like paper, right? Please send me everything you have. It makes me happy. But you don't have to have everything together to go ask a question. And sometimes it makes it easier to ask your questions. And then whether it's me or it's Michael or anyone else in our office, we're going to say, oh, you could send me everything if you've got it, or I need one, two, and three. Can you help me narrow it down? Because if you can
yes,
send me just these things, you don't have to go through the whole box. Just, I can tell you exactly what I'm looking for so I can give you a better answer or give you the right answer. Um, don't feel like you have to have everything dress just to make a call. You don't.
yeah.
Sometimes it's easier for somebody to say, okay, just calm down. I would like everything eventually, but here's what I need right now. And we'll go from there.
Before we finish, and our time's gone so quick again, there's so much to discuss. There's a part that I really want to unpack that I think is really important for everybody out there that is grieving or in the throes of anticipated grief. You mentioned to me the last time, and it shocked me, and it actually shocked another lawyer that I was speaking to, as I told you about this time barred idea, this contestable, the 2 years. That seems a bit of a red flag and something that trips them up. It's like a tripwire because you'd mentioned to me before that it's not the way it starts again.
It's it's standard. It's standard. So I have never seen a life policy that did not have a 2-year contestability period. And so the idea with that is that when you get a new policy, um, even if you qualify, so like they might do request medical records, or they'll do a medical on you. I think most of them do
Yeah.
medicals now. And you can qualify for the policy and they'll rate you and you'll start that policy. If you die within the first 2 years of owning that policy, they have the right to do what they call a contestable review, which means they have the right to stop and say, before we pay this, we're going to go request all of these medical records back to, the beginning of time. And if we feel like there was anything in those records that you did not disclose, whether it was intentional or just due to a misunderstanding, that had we known, we would not have issued this policy, then they're going to deny the policy. Okay. Every life insurance policy has that 2-year contestable review. Here's what they don't explain. Anytime
This is the
you,
bit I love.
this is like crazy. So a lot of times, if a policy lapses, so people, hey, I missed a payment, I, changed banks, I forgot to
Yeah.
update my auto renew. Can you reinstate my policy? They do sometimes, but what they don't tell you is the minute they reinstate it, you just restarted that 2-year contestability period.
That's
Um,
what that other lawyer
yeah.
didn't know that I spoke to yesterday. He
Hmm.
had no Austin, if you're
Oh
listening, this is what I was telling you about, right?
yeah.
He did not he
Right.
was like, wow, he didn't know that either.
Hmm.
That is not only a red flag, that's a tripwire. That really is a tripwire.
Here's the one that actually makes me really mad. So I want to say over 100 million Americans get their life insurance through their employer as a part of a
Yeah.
benefits package, which is just a tremendous thing to have. And when someone either goes on disability or they retire, right? Those policies will there's rules, there's caveats to how they work. If you retire, at some point, I think it's like 30 days. Some companies will give you 60, but most of the time you have 30 or 31 days to take that work policy and convert it to a personal policy, right? You have
Right.
to convert it. By
Right.
the way, guess what happens when you convert it? You
Starts again.
restart your 2-year contestability period. And most people, when they
My
retire,
God.
guess what? They're older. Their health is not the same. So it's just
That
one of,
is
oh, so frustrating.
that must be frustrating. That is
Yeah.
absolutely crazy.
And then the ones with disability, this one makes me so mad. People will go on disability and you know, whether they have long-term or short-term disability, they'll go on that. And I really want to lift up like HR companies here because they're really trying to take care of their employees. They really are. They have
Yeah.
these packages, they're
Yes.
helping them with the paperwork. And then
Yeah.
at some point, there will be a point where if you are not returning to active work, however they define that in the policy, usually it's like so many hours per day or so many hours per week.
Wow.
Even though you qualified for disability, even though you're still considered an employee, even though you still have all of these benefits and they're still being paid for, when you pass away, if you are not actively at work within a certain amount of time, then they will say that they're going to deny it because you either should have been actively at work or you should have converted it to a personal policy during that time.
Wow,
And
that's
it's
crazy.
just and look, the rules are different for every type of policy, the deadlines are different, but I mean, I will tell you, I tell people that that 31 do those 31 days where you're looking at do you have to convert it or not, those are the most expensive delays of your life because if
Wow.
people don't know, if they don't know to ask, if they don't submit the paperwork, um, failure to meet that deadline, that is the most expensive deadline you will ever have because that
That's
carries
crazy.
everything. Um, and I think that's part of the things to think about. You know, the rules are really different for, you know, each policy. Did you get it through work? Did you get it through the military? Did you buy it personally? Where you got the
Yeah.
policy, you know, what type of policy it is. The rules are different, and the life insurance companies know that.
That's crazy. Steph, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
my guest on Pillars of Grief. I never thought for one moment that I would have a lawyer that's an expert in life insurance policies.
Thank you.
And I think it's important that anybody who's listening out there, as I've mentioned at the beginning, I get this question all the time. People are left high and dry. People are left with another level of grief. They're going into a financial turmoil, a financial grief, if you like. And I've seen it happen, especially over COVID, when they never people. You know, I've got people that I know who are grieving and become friends of mine, and
Right.
you know, they lost their husbands. Shockingly, had gone out to work, never come back. They never could communicate with them. They never could. You know, I one of my friends, she basically lost her husband. She couldn't see him in hospital, so there's nothing they can deal with financially. There's nothing ready. Thought they were going out to work that day and that. This happens, ladies and gentlemen. So it's important that you get proactive now. And I'm so glad that I met you, Steph, because I can now pass people on and say, look, this is the expert you need to speak to because there are so many tripwires out there and there's so many people grieving that just even to get a little bit of help like this is light at the end of the tunnel.
Just know you're not alone. You're just not.
Tell them about Life Claim, how they can connect with you and
Absolutely.
get that roadmap.
Absolutely. So we have a website, lifeclaim.com. On our website are, you know, like there's two little forms if you want to fill one out. Those emails come directly to me. I respond to 85, 90% of them. We have other lawyers that respond to the other ones, but as of now, I respond to the bulk of them. Or on there is our phone number as well. You can call. Our number is 888-615-3270. Um, and I'm typically here. I'd be pleased to visit with you. Sometimes I'm the one who answers the phone. If you send an email or if you leave a message, we always return our calls. And I I know that sounds silly, but I have to tell you, like, that's fundamental to me. Like, we return those calls, and even
I
if
love
it's to
it.
tell you, I don't know if I'm the right person, or yes, we can, or hey, I need a little more. Like, we're going to return those calls. You shouldn't feel left out on that. And you can find me on this podcast or wherever else. So we're pretty easy to find.
Yeah, you'll get Steph on here on the Pillars of Grief, but also on Help Lawyer and the legal community that I'm involved in as well. You can connect with her there. But this is important. Steph, thank you for being a
Thank
guest.
you.
I will definitely have you back on Pillars of Grief. I think there's so much to unpack that, and maybe what we'll do is maybe we'll do a live Q&A. People that have
That would be
questions
fun.
can
Yeah.
actually might do that, because I think so. So there you go, guys. Steph and I may do a live Q&A. We'll sort that out at some point where we take some questions. You can ask her anything about life insurance, and this is typically not just selling insurance. This is stopping the suffering. Nobody needs to suffer. You suffer enough losing a loved one, let alone having to cope with all the documentation. As I told you before, last year, my wife and I, we lost many family members, and we've been involved. My wife is still at the moment involved in trying to deal with some back in the UK with documentation. And here's the thing. You can't always trust anybody on the side not to lose the documentation or not to have a footprint. And so it's important that you have that in your roadmap as well, dealing with that personally. Steph, it has been wonderful connecting with you again. It's fantastic having in. I'm glad that you're now my resource that I can send people who are grieving that need financial information or help with their life insurance policies.
Thank you.
Make
Thank
sure
you.
you connect with her on lifeclaim.com. It's easy to remember. And we'll have Steph back on uh, Pillars of Grief. I nearly said the other one. And also you can get her on Legal Oil as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. This is Jock. This is the Pillars of Grief. If you've got any questions about grieving, remember you're not grieving alone. Your loved ones still exist. They'll send you signs from the heavens above. They're always around you, never disconnected. And you've got the support here on Pillars of Grief in our community, and now also with Stephanie Prestridge at Life Climb. Join us again for another episode. God bless.
Hi, thank you for joining me here today. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you are interested in anything that I have to teach, if you want to learn more. Make sure you ask questions below in the comments and I'll make sure to answer them. Come back regularly because I teach many different subjects to do with grief, spiritual development, and spiritual crisis. So make sure subscribe below and I'll see you in the next one.